Thank you so much for having me today. This is going to be super quick, 15 minutes, including maybe questions. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about is a beautiful little thing in iOS called Peek and Pop. And quick raise of hands, who knows what this is all about? Great. For those of you who don't, it's a feature that comes with a 3D touch enabled devices, not Force Touch, 3D touch. So if you have 3D touch, you can press gently, you can press hard, and you can do amazing things according to how hard you press, right? So in Peek and Pop, if you want to preview some content, you can tap gently, press gently on the screen. And you have as an iOS developer, you have the possibility to provide the user with some peekable content. And then as the user decides that the peekable content is exactly what he or she wants to see, he or she can press even harder and enter the more detailed view. And that's called a pop. So peek, preview, pop, commit the navigation. And then also while you peek, perhaps you think that this is about what I want to have, but I just want to do something with it. Then you can provide the user with preview actions. So the agenda for this quick talk is to go through some real-life examples, real-world examples of Peek and Pop, and show you how the basic thing you have to implement in your app to provide this, and then have some live coding. 15 minutes. Let's do it. So I have a face that is detectable. So let's start off by looking at some real-world examples. If you have 3D Touch and you browse Safari, let's see, Facebook, perhaps not. Okay, female comedians in new Me Too roar. Seems interesting, seems a little bit glitchy, but let's peek it. I get this really nice banner layout. Sorry for the view being on the right, sorry. This is the only way that I can show this device. If I peek this article, it is a fantastic feature, and it's really hard to peek and pop correctly. So here we have a peek. You see that we have a white arrow topmost, and DN only shows a big banner, but hey, that's okay. If we swipe up, we get some actions that we can perform on this thing, like share to someone or something. In Twitter, they have a nice collection of patterns that they use. For instance, if we tap on my good friend John Gyllensvärd, this looks real nice. I can pop in to the detail. I can swipe up for a bunch of actions. And Twitter also has if you peek on a link, you get an embedded browser. But these are all good. The app that I really like, who implements Peek and Pop, is Netflix. If you peek on a cover, you get this nicely designed teaser that makes me want to see The Punisher right away. It is good. If you swipe up, of course, you have some actions. If you pop, you get taken to the pop. You have to pop it. You get taken to the detail page. So that's basically it, and it's really, really, really super simple to implement. So what I'm really curious about is why so very few apps use this. Spotify doesn't have this. SF Cinema app doesn't have this. Seems like a lost opportunity to me. If you do want to implement this, you need to implement one single protocol, which is called UI View Controller Previewing Delegate. Not too long for being an iOS protocol. And when you do implement it, you have to implement two functions, which is previewing context, view controller for location. And for this function, location is the point where you tap, where you want to peek. And then, so this function corresponds to the peek. And then you have a previewing context, view controller to commit, which corresponds to the pop. So you peek, and then when you pop, the view controller that you popped on is going to get passed to this function, and then you can decide to do whatever you want with it. And then if your previewed view controller want to support quick actions, you just have to specify an array of actions. So really simple. Let's do some live coding. We're going to take a demo app without any peek and pop. We're going to add some peek and pop to it. We're going to customize the peek. Then we're going to go from peeking and popping the same view controller to peeking a view controller, popping to another one, add some actions, and talk about some learnings. If you want to download some sample code, it's up on GitHub. Take a photo. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. So if we run this application, we're going to see this really, really nice, quickly assembled demo application that lists a bunch of recipes. We have no peek and no pop, but if we tap it, we get taken to a recipe detail page. Nice. The only thing we have to do now, I'm going to come back to this part of the code where we implement this protocol, the previewing delegate protocol. The only thing we have to do once we implement it is to call one single function that is called register for previewing. The with argument is the delegate, the previewing delegate, which in this case is the view controller. And then the source view is the view in which the peek is going to take place. In this case, it's the collection view. So super simple. You also have to check if the trait collection, the current trait collection, has force touch capabilities. You want some perhaps larger fonts, like that. And then if you check for force touch capabilities, you can also have some fallback. Some applications have a long press gesture instead, if you don't have 3D touch. So if we now run this app, and we peek, you see that the entire collection view is lifted. We then get a peek. And if we pop, we get taken to the detail page. So this is amazing, of course, but we can improve this. For instance, we shouldn't be able to lift the entire collection view. That's a little bit strange. So when you implement the previewing context view controller for location, I'm going to go through the steps here. First of all, we assure that we have a collection view. And then we get the index path for item at the tapped location. Then we find the cell that we tapped, cell for item at path. If some of this, any of this is missing, we just do nothing. And then we have to say, set the source rect for the peek, which is not the view frame, but the cell frame. Oh, it runs, look at that. This only happens in live coding demos. Okay, if we now peek the delicious iced coffee, only the cell gets lifted. It's really hard with the touchpad here. But you can see it, right? Only the cell. Nice. And this is all nice, but if you looked at the Netflix example, the badge was really small and tiny and delicious. If we want to achieve that, we can tell the view controller, we can set a preferred content size. So if we here say that the content size should have a height of 250, we rerun the app. The iced coffee is going to be a lot more delicious. So we just have a 250 here. Nice. Can we do 150? Could we? I think we can. I think you get the point, but let's just do it anyways. Let's pop this strange sandwich. Okay, looks good. So that's nice, right? But if we were to say that we want a 270 height, the entire app is going to go up in flames because we peek the detail view controller, and it's not adjusted for peeking. It's adjusted for popping. So if we have a quick look at the view controller here, you can see that the full view controller, it's just a big bunch of stuff that doesn't really align with smaller, doesn't fit smaller content. So what I've done is to create a recipe view controller, recipe preview view controller, which has like this really nice, delicious badge bottommost that sticks to the bottom no matter how small it is, right? So let's go ahead and replace the recipe view controller with recipe preview view controller instead. Only this part changed. But for the user, everything is about to change. Nice. I want some crash hot potatoes right now. The pioneer woman with the rank of 100 just, yeah, she sold me. But what I really want to be able to do here now is, it's too much of a time investment for me to pop into this. I just want to mark this as my favorite right away. So let's do that. In the previewing view controller, let's just implement the preview actions. So preview action items, an array of UI preview action items. And you have a small set of options here. You can have a preview action, you can have an action group, which lets you group actions in action groups, which also can have groups of actions. It's crazy, but you can do it. And a group is expandable and collapsible. So if we run this app again, now we're going to have a small white arrow that indicates that we can slide it up. So this passed us something. Oh, let's do that again. Let's do that again. I can mark this as favorite, I can share a recipe, and I can report offensive recipes, which you should be able to do, right? Okay, so that's about it. But what I want to take just 1 minute to talk about is how your app, perhaps, this is a one-liner of how you create your preview view controller. But me and Michael here, we work at BookBit. Nice. And we have a really big app. And we want navigation and everything to us, a book is a first-class citizen, for instance. So almost every view controller in our app is able to show a book. So the approach that we have taken is to have navigation. You can do this as a navigation class, of course. You can do it as simple extensions. But have our navigation use our domain objects. So instead of saying, create this book view controller and push it on the stack, instead we say, show this book. And the extensions take care of it. So here, for instance, we have show recipe. It creates a recipe view controller and pushes it on the stack. What I've then done is to add a peek function and a pop function. And basically what the pop for now does is to show the recipe. What the peek does is to create a recipe preview view controller, set the preferred content size, and return the preview view controller. So if we wanted to use this, the only thing we would have to do is to say return peek, and instead of show IOC resolve arguments VC recipe as recipe view controller, we can just say pop VC recipe. And this, I think, makes the code much more obvious to understand what happens, and also makes it much more easier to implement peek and pop in an entire application. So it does the same. Yeah. And other learnings that we've encountered while implementing peek and pop in BookBeat is if every view controller is to implement peek and pop, however simple this protocol is, you can't implement this in every view controller. So we found a nice way to do this with one line of code in each view controller that supports peek and pop. And if you want to talk about that, we can do that afterwards. I think that I'm out of time for like 5 minutes ago. So I just, 2 minutes ago. So thank you so much. And yeah, we have time for questions.
So I think we'll let you have one question. So
Nice.
one question for from the audience. Who wants to ask a question to Mr. Daniel?
Okay, this is more of a UX question than a programming one, but why do you think that this is not such a common feature? Because it's been around, I think, for a couple of years. Is it because it's some sort of feature that more power users will use and the mainstream don't, so the product owners or UX designers say, okay, so it's probably not worth it to implement this?
Well, I've been reviewing a lot of applications, and sometimes it conflicts with a long press gesture, which is perhaps something that the user is more used to. Like coming from a non-3D touch device, you're perhaps more expected to long press stuff than to peek and pop. In other example, I think it's also a hidden feature that perhaps require you to educate users a little bit. We're going to try to do it with a call-out bubble to say that you can now peek and pop, and we're also going to have a long press fallback. I really like the haptic feedback that you get from a peek and pop, but yeah, I don't know why it's so rare. No, it's not. Yeah. Perhaps in time. Perhaps the next iPad Pro.
Yeah, but I agree with you, Daniel. I think everybody should implement Peek and Pop. Of course, we've done that at Duo as well.
Great.
So thank you very much, Daniel.
Thank you.